Tony, can you hear me, man?
Yes, I can. This shit's fucking works.
Sorry about that.
It's not you. It's not you. Whatever. Just that shit just don't work half the time. So,
I think on the computer it works good, but I guess with the phone it don't work so well.
I've never had it work ever. I mean, I was doing stuff with Javier Mendez, and it just
Oh yeah.
constantly was having problems. Yeah, just whatever. It is what it is.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time to do this and everybody. So everybody, this Tony Valente, and actually, I first saw him when I was living in Japan. I was living in Japan when he was kind of competing in the K1, and so I kind of wanted, for people, if there's anyone watching this who might not be familiar with you from our era, maybe you could kind of introduce yourself and talk about kind of when you first kind of got started in this stuff.
Uh, I started martial arts in 1973, and then I competed in point tournaments, and then in the 80s, I did like PKA kickboxing, and then did Muay Thai stuff in the 90s, and then after that, I was just body was just thrashed, and then I made friend. Then one day I was sitting in the audience, and I was watching this guy fight. He had 100 wins, and I'm like, man, this dude sucks. I would get out of my bed and beat this guy, and they were like, dude, you're dreaming. That dude will kill you. And I said, let's do it. So they set up the fight, and I beat him with no training and no nothing, just shadow boxing in my garage and living off Twizzlers. So then from that point on, they're like, hey, we need opponents because we can't get Americans to fight K1. Like none of the Americans wanted to do it. And I'm just like hey, I don't care, let's do it. So when I got called for K1, they're like, look, you just don't have enough experience. We want the best and this and that. And I said, hey, I'll put a show on that nobody will ever forget. It'll be the most ridiculous shit ever. And they're like, you know what? It's Japan. Come on down. So that's how it all started. You know, that 20
So were you?
years ago. Yeah, I was like 30. I was 39. I was 39 years old, and that was it, man. Like 20. They said 20 million people watched it, and they were going crazy, like with just some crazy stuff. And going in, my ribs were broken, so I was helping a fighter named Raph White. Raph White was fighting Manson Gibson, so I was the sparring partner for everybody getting ready for Manson Gibson. So he busted my ribs, and actually Dewey Cooper was with me, and at that time, I was training Dewey Cooper for all his fights. And I'm just like, look, dude, we got a round and a half before I turn into a pumpkin. This is going to be a bad Cinderella story. So I'm just going to throw the most ridiculous shit. Maybe I can get lucky. Let's see what happens. And, the rest is history.
Who was the first guy you fought? That was kickboxing, right?
Yeah, first kickboxing fight was in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Japan, I mean.
Oh, in Japan. The first fight, no, in Japan, I went to Japan in 1999, and I walked into a gym, and they're like, hey, they got some shoot boxing fights going on, and we need an opponent. And I go, shoot boxing? What is that? And they're like, it's in Japan, and they wear like spandex with, designer pants and all this other stuff. And they go, you want to go? And I said, hey, let's go. So 2 weeks later, I was on my way to Japan. So that was my first fight in Japan. Yeah. But the first K1 fight was actually in Vegas. And that was against, I can't, Peter something, whatever. Yeah, Peter had 100 fights. So yeah, that was the guy. So that was K1 USA 2001 in Las Vegas. Yeah, so that was the first one.
Yeah, shoot boxing was Mr. Caesar's promotion.
Yeah,
Caesar,
Caesar Takahashi.
yeah,
Yeah.
like stand up with throws, and then you could do like standing submissions too.
Yeah, it was interesting, man. It's an early evolution of martial arts, man. Like really early. So, you know, I mean, today's generation is just so much better. Like, there's just no comparison. But that's because my generation, we took all the beatings and went into war, and we learned how to be better coaches. Because back in our day, we didn't have no coaches. Nobody knew nothing. They were telling us to kick wooden trees and whatever. Nobody really knew nothing. It was really the early evolution of it. It was totally different. Guys now, they're lucky. You can go to a gym, get all the sparring you want. Trainers know what they're doing. Like, it really has evolved. But every 10 years, things get better anyway. And because the money has increased, you have way better athletes now. So a lot of people in my generation were just tough, but today the level of athletes are so much better. Like, no comparison.
Yeah, but shoot boxing, I mean, of all the shows I went to, I really liked that show. That promotion was one of the better promotions as far as to watch it.
Because everybody had high levels of martial arts skill. It just wasn't fighting.
Right.
They had years and years of karate, so they had really good kicks and stuff. So yeah, it was just a different time in the world, man.
Now, were you already into kind of the Bruce Lee look and stuff before?
No, well, it just Japan was about entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, how can I make some money out of this? Let me, because they're like, hey, look, we need view. You got to realize Asian people were taking photos and documenting their lives forever, and everybody was making fun of Asians. And now every day people can't put their phone down for 10 seconds. So Asians were so far advanced in that stuff. So they were into the media. They were into the entertainment aspect of things. Fighting was a form of entertainment. It couldn't just be a fight, because real fighting is pretty much ugly. It's kind of barbaric. But if you put martial arts together, then you have the art form, and then it's entertaining, and like Andy Hug, like his karate was just absolutely amazing.
So when you went there, because I know a lot of people, you kind of got people's attention right away because you had the Bruce Lee look and the nunchucks
Oh
that
yeah,
you could.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just so ridiculous because, like, fighting in that suit is literally like wrapping yourself in foil and being a baked potato in the oven. Like, that thing was not designed to fight it. It is so hot to wear that damn thing. It's just so ridiculous. Like, nobody expected it. So before the arena, I said, look, nobody can see this shit, whatever. But when the fight comes and you lower me into the arena, all of a sudden I'll be wearing that stuff. And, people went crazy because it's so ridiculous, you know?
But did you regret it from a fight standpoint?
No, I mean, it is what it is, man. You win some, you lose some. I landed some incredible stuff. I mean, I buckled him twice, hit him with jump spinning hook kicks to the head and everything else. Like, the original fight was edited and released on the internet to make it look like I didn't even land a punch. But if you look at,
In the baked potato part, did you regret that?
oh,
Too.
I just didn't expect it to be that hot. It's always hot in the ring, but it was just like, damn, dude, like this. But I was pretty busted up going in, so I was just like, realistically, I'm like, I gotta try to last 2 rounds. And then when I got dropped, he knew my ribs was broke. Everybody knew it. So they just kept telling him, keep throwing at his body, throw at his body. So when I'm laying there and my ribs are locked up, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, you better get the fuck up, you piece of shit. You better get up. Take this count as long as you can, and you better get up and try to keep going. And like I said, I was able to force myself up again, but it's just like, when you're busted up, you're busted up. So, but yeah, I helped a lot of people get ready for Manson Gibson.
Yeah, he was a wild fighter too, Manson Gibson.
Uh, a lot of people don't know about Manson. He would drink like a bottle of vodka before his fights. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and,
his
and
spin
smoke
kicks were
too.
bad. Yeah, he had crazy spin kicks.
He's pretty bad. He's in bad shape now, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he
he tried to take on 20 hood rats on a train, like probably about 5 years ago, because he used to do that. He would take guns from people. He'd go in the ghetto and just take on like armies of people. And he's too old. We're all too old. So he was in there trying that. And he got beat up bad. So he's really not in good shape.
wow. Where's this at?
Chicago.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
he's like a vigilante.
Well, back when he was young, his pain tolerance was unreal. So, he's just a tough dude, man. He's, I mean, he is what he is, man, you know. But I
Yeah,
worked for K1 for 7 years behind the scenes, too.
yeah.
So, know, I got to hold pads for a lot of people and work with a lot of people, see the training methods and everything. So, it was an interesting time.
But you never felt like after the fight, this thing is so hot, maybe I shouldn't have worn it.
No, because actually they said that they were going to give me 3 fights. So the next fight I wanted to dress as Pai Mei.
That's what.
As Pai Mei. Like you Kill Bill with the fucking
Oh,
white hair and the beard and that.
yeah.
Yeah, I figured that. Because see, the ultimate thing, they're like, hey, we'll give you 3 fights, just put a show on. So my ultimate fight that I wanted was Dinky Sudo.
Mhm.
Because we both had, ridiculous styles. And, it just never happened. So it is what it is. But that's
Now,
who I wanted the most was Ginky Sudo.
when they approach you about fighting Kid, like I trained with him at that time, so I had known that you were going to fight him like before anybody, pretty much. Like, when did they approach you about that? When did you know that?
Uh, they messaged me and said, hey, you want to make 15 grand? And I'm like, sure. And I'm like, who do I fight? And they're like, Kid Yamamoto. And I'm like, who's that? And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. When do you want me to do it? And they're like, can you do it in a week? And I'm like, look, I don't even have no MMA background or whatever. I'm like, dude, I'm not no wrestler. And they're like, we don't care. Just come down to get the money. So I did it. And that was it. And, I starved myself to make that weight. That was really, really tough. That was tough. So I just didn't eat for days. And then I went there. And it was stupid because it's like, like there was no internet or nothing like that. So I figured I'd just go in, get some money, get in and get out. And then like for the next 20 years, every single day I'm being insulted as a fraud, a coward, a loser. I can't fight. Like it never stops. But that's the world we live in. Sometimes you can't do things for money because I was a stand-up fighter, and to go into a grappling match, an MMA match with no experience was just stupid.
I don't think many people in Japan saw it that way. He was a wrestler. He took you down. I mean,
Well, Japanese people
that's
don't.
what it is.
Japanese people are the
Yeah.
most like lovable, nice people on the planet. They don't care. They just say like, as it's as like a Richard Pryor album. This nigga's crazy. So,
I mean, you were much taller than him. For him to have to stand up and fight you would have been difficult. He had to try to win the fight that way.
yeah, yeah. But if you're really really tall, okay, Badahari, he's probably one of the best strikers ever. They tried to teach him how to grapple, and everybody can take him down all day because he's all legs.
Yeah.
He has too much legs. So you have to have a certain type of body aesthetics to be great at certain sports.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but kid, it would have been hard for him to fight you standing
Oh,
up because he's just
he gets
short.
slaughtered. I kill
Yeah,
him.
he's short.
If I just use the 1-2
Yeah.
just a simple boxing. Or if I don't try to put a show on and I just do some 1-2 boxing stuff, yeah, I'll body people. But like I said, to fight and put a show on, that's totally different. But
He had to try and fight the way he did. I mean, I don't know why people would think otherwise, I mean,
well, we
that's,
live in a very, very hateful society and stuff like that, and that's the world we live in. I mean, people are frustrated. It just we live in a circus, man. So you have to expect circus type
and that's his
results.
strength anyway. I mean, he can take a lot of people down. That's what he's good at, that's where his elite ability was.
Oh, it's a different generation. People now are like a million times
Yeah.
better, like no comparison.
What did you think when you heard he passed away?
Um, I kind of felt bad for him. I mean, I didn't know the guy, but he. It's just like when I looked at him, I just seen a guy under astronomical amount of pressure
Hmm.
because it's like you're representing a country that absolutely will not accept failure for nothing. You have to win. You have to be the guy. So to wake up every single day and have that level of pressure, that's a lot to deal with, man. Like, and then you reach a point where you're getting injured and everybody expects too much from you. Like, I mean, it's inevitable. You're going to self-destruct.
Mm. Yeah, and you know, when I saw the pictures of him, like the last pictures of him in Guam, I didn't even recognize him anymore. Because cancer is just a crazy disease.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to pace your life out. It's like, for me, I mean, I started in martial arts in '73, and everybody in the '70s, I seen them just like 5 years burn out, '80s burn out, '90s burned out, 2000 burned out. So I'm like, you know what? I need to really, really slow down. And like my goal was to be able to kick at 60 years old. And I'm like, man, it'd be cool if I could kick at 60. So I can still kick and everything else. But like I said, I only got one more. I only got one more year. So it was just trying to stretch it out. So I got a YouTube channel. It's getting pretty popular and stuff. It's Kung Fu Theater. So it's real. Everything, all the breaking, all that stuff. I do it. It's all real, and I don't post anything that I can't do for real. So it's kind of like a tribute to the old school era. But
Hmm.
the power and speed and all that is there. So I try to be like an inspiration for old people that you can still have some level of skill. When you get old, you don't have to be just some busted up cripple. You know,
Did
you really have to time manage your body because you only have so much.
Yeah. Did you grow up on the Shaw Brothers films, like the Hong Kong
Oh,
films?
absolutely, absolutely. Movies were $1.50. I have a blog on Tumblr called Kung Fu Theater, and I cover the golden era of that era, and I bring up information that was never released about, Joe Louis being a cocaine addict, Jim Kelly was gay. Like I throw everything on there because I knew these people.
But I mean, like the Hong Kong films, like the Shaw Brother ones.
Oh, absolutely,
Those ones-
absolutely.
Yeah, I love those films.
Well, you know what? My generation, those movies were our comic books.
Yeah.
That's what they were because you had the characters. Everybody had a different style. It was basically a comic book. And the generation before, everybody was into westerns, and then the generation after me was into WW wrestling. The next generation's into Marvel movies. So each generation is influenced by something.
But I think people don't, those movies don't get credit for their influence on, kind of,
No, they're really popular.
they are, but I don't think, like, amongst the mixed martial arts community, I think they have more influence than I think people realize. Because, like, I was into that stuff before I got into the UFC. The whole reason I watched UFC 2 was because, when I was a kid, my dad had a job in Saudi Arabia and they showed Kung Fu Theater every Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia only had one channel, one
Well,
TV channel.
here's one problem. So when you dub movies in English, the words don't match, so it makes it like a parody.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Kung Fu movies are extremely popular in Mexico because when you dub movies in Spanish, the lips move perfect. And some of those characters look Hispanic. So, Mexicans, Hispanics, the Latin community, they watch these movies like, hey, this guy looks like a little short, fat Mexican doing Kung Fu, and the lips match perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just really getting popular,
Yeah. And I think there wasn't that much time between those movies and the UFC. So I do think there's some connection between those eras, the early era and those Kung Fu films. They influenced a lot of those guys who competed in the first few UFCs.
Yeah, well, it's all influenced for sure. It all is part of the big pie of things. But, in MMA, you really, you can't experiment with nothing. You just have to do what works. And because the reward is so great that, you can't be practicing nonsense because you can get physically hurt. I mean, the average MMA fighter, his career is 4 years. MMA beats your body up bad. I mean, training 3 times a day, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, lifting weights and running and boxing. Like, MMA is so hard on your body. Like, people have really short careers.
Yeah, I don't think that's something people talk about a lot. It's just the time you have, as a person or as a martial artist or as an athlete for MMA or just in general in training, like you were talking about earlier.
Okay, Chuck Norris was doing air kicking for like 5 years. By the time he made it to movies, his legs were so blown out that his brother had to do all his stunts and everything else. His legs were just gone. So you only have a certain window where everything is good, and then from there, you think you're going to get back there.
You think you're going to get back there?
Yeah,
It doesn't happen.
It's chasing the dragon. You think, well, man, I'm going to get back to the way I used to be, and I'm telling you, everybody has this short window where everything is easy to you, and then after that, everything else is difficult as hell.
Yeah, I think people think that way about jiu-jitsu. A lot of times, I think people fall out of jiu-jitsu because your body's not going to hold up forever.
Okay, so triangles destroy your knees.
Yeah.
I know jiu-jitsu gyms where everybody in there is hurt. Like, jiu-jitsu builds medical clinics because everybody's hurt. And I always tell people, hey, look, figure out how to do this without being hurt. So you have a group of people that say, oh, I'm not going to tap because if I tap in the gym, I'll tap in a fight. And everybody's shoulders are blown out, their backs are hurt. Like, I think they need to find a balance,
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for sure. If you're really into training in anything, just like you said, you only have a short window, really.
A short window, unless you have like John Jones has incredible genetics. 2 of his brothers have Super Bowl rings, whatever. They have what I call the slave ship genetics. So they can get away with stuff for a while. But at some point, it will happen all at once. At some point, a fighter just wakes up and it's gone. Like, that's it. Like this Errol Spence kid, 2 car accidents. I'm like, he could have died in that Crawford fight. All that plastic surgery on his face. I mean, hitting the heavy bag, he's kind of wobbling. But in his spare time, like they said, he drinks a lot. So, it's inevitable, man.
Yeah, so you just think because the way that fight went was more because of what Spence had gone through before the fight.
Okay, 2 car accidents, crashing through a window at 100 miles an hour, and living down south eating fried food and drinking. Like, this dude's, it's a medical miracle, you
Yeah.
know? You can't cheat code that stuff. That's why, like, I've been around, I've been lucky enough to get to watch Habib train because I know Javier Mendez and been in their camp and stuff, and got to be around those guys and watch them train and how they think and all that stuff. And, you know, and they are so disciplined. It's most people, they couldn't handle it. Like, not even that long ago, I seen Habib wrestle a four-time current world jiu-jitsu champion. And it literally looked like Godzilla going into a daycare and throwing kids around. Like, that's how good this dude is. I've never seen anybody beat him in grappling at any weight. Like, he's that good. I mean,
But he talks about what you talk about. You know, he's saying when you get to like 30, 32, you're going to go down. As good as he
well, because of
is,
his lifestyle, though.
yeah.
His lifestyle, man. He don't eat junk food. He don't eat fast food. He's not womanizing. He's not up until midnight. Like, a fighter has to live a very, very boring life.
Yeah.
You know, the ring is your stage, but up until then, your life has to be extremely boring and structured, and then you'll be good.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can be good at fighting.
But I think even he was self-reflective, as good as he is and as disciplined as he is. He still admits you can only be good until here, and then it goes like this.
Okay, I'll give you an example. If you go to lunch with him, he pours everybody's tea. This dude is very, very traditional, extremely structured, old school values. Like, if you're around this guy, like, it changes your life, because it's like, wow, man, this dude's a superstar and he's gonna pour me a glass of tea. You see what I'm saying? This dude is just, his level of respect and discipline is just, he's one of a kind, man. He truly is one of a kind. He is inspirational, man. It's like, wow,
Why do you think
man.
he walked away from fighting?
Well, I would have to say, they're very, very, very traditional. And his mom's like, hey, I don't want you doing this no more. So there it is. I'm not going to try to conspiracy theory or not like that, but I'll tell you this much. He can go in there right now and take down anybody. He can go into 185 and take down anybody. And I'm telling you, they're not getting up. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. This dude trains religiously every day, just like he's never stopped training. It's a way of life for him. He is a true martial artist in the highest form. He's serious, man. That's why,
How did you get to know Javier?
I've known Javier like 20, like 25 years. I met him through Scott Coker. Me and Scott Coker are really, really good friends. Scott Coker is a Bruce Lee fanatic and stuff. So he collects real Bruce Lee memorabilia.
Mm-hmm.
And, because that's where it all started. Bruce Lee basically influenced everybody because it was just a different time and a different world. And, the guy, was really ahead of his time. Just a real, real smart dude.
Now, let me ask you about Coker, because Bellator's got some things going on. Do you think it's going to continue, or do you know, or are you even into this
No.
stuff?
Here's what's going on. This is what I do know, and this is not quoting him or anything like that. A lot of times, somebody like CBS and Viacom, they hire executives that don't know about the sport, and they don't know how to communicate with people. They only think on a corporate level. So when when these people are constantly getting hired and constantly go in, everything is what they think, and it's not based on facts. So, Viacom is extremely difficult to deal with, and they just keep, hiring these people that are like, well, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this, and people that really know it, it's inevitable. I think I just don't think it's going to hold up. There's going to be a big changing of the guard. That's all I can say.
You mean changing on the guard as far as who's running it, or changing on the guard as far?
With MMA, MMA has to go to the next level. So if you walk down the street, you can ask the average person to name 2 MMA champions, and they can't, because UFC, basically, you have UFC and you have Dana White. Those are the 2 biggest names of the brand. So that particular company only has those 2 names above everybody else. There is no stars in MMA. Most people think McGregor or Diaz brothers or something. So they run stuff weird. And, Bellator doesn't, have, Bellator is big in Europe. It's just not big in the United States. There really is a shortage of fighters. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough sport, man. I think MMA definitely is in the top 3 toughest sports, hands down. 100%.
PFL was looking at maybe buying them, but I've heard that's kind of.
I say the odds of that happening are pretty damn good.
Think it's going to happen?
I think PFL is going to try to buy up a lot of stuff, including boxing. Yeah.
How soon do you think that could happen?
I say by next year. By next year they're going to be on a shopping spree.
They would have to be, because you kind of have to show that you're doing. If you're trying to compete, you kind of have to show that you're doing something. You know what I mean?
Well, think about it. This Francis Ngannou fight is technically going to be the biggest fight in history, because you have the hardest puncher in the world versus one of the best heavyweight boxers in the world. This is the biggest crossover fight ever. This has more interest than anything, because it's like, wow, does this guy really have a puncher's chance? It's merging all fighting arts together, and MMA fighters are calling out boxers left and right. Like, this is a big changing of the guard, And MMA boxing is not boxing. But if you took a world-class boxer and put him in bare feet, he's not going to be that good. Everything depends on the rules. That's why you can get a professional boxer and put him in bare-knuckle boxing, and he won't do good, because bare-knuckle boxing is kind of like a tough man contest. So you have to have a high volume of punches in a very, very short amount of time. So you see what I'm saying? Rules really change a lot of things. I think a lot of MMA fighters could beat pro boxers if they were boxing in MMA gloves, because a lot of boxers need rounds to warm up. They need to get into a rhythm. They use all the padding of the glove for defense. So if you eliminate all of that, everybody has a puncher's chance with a 4-ounce glove.
Yeah, and boxers have kind of struggled a little bit in bare knuckle too. The ones who have experience,
because they have low volume punching, and you got to realize they use the glove for defense. You take that away, now they're extremely vulnerable. It's completely different. The rules really, really make a difference, man.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I mean, you got Mike Tyson, you got Francis, you got Tyson Fury, who's a genetic freak, man. But Tyson Fury is beyond dangerous. He's damn near 7 feet tall. He's mean as shit. If you knock him down, he will get up like a zombie apocalypse. He ain't staying down. You know, he's, you know, he can move. He has speed, and he did bare knuckle. So, like, you know, there's Francis is definitely going to need some luck in this one, man.
Yeah, I talked to DeMarcus Corley, who fought in bare knuckle, and he said, like, you have to go right at the guy because you're starting right in the middle of the ring. They have you stand right in front of each other, and you only have like 2-minute rounds. And they
It's like a
basically,
tough man contest.
yeah, he's like, you have to go right at the guy. You don't really have any time to, like you said, you don't have time to really feel the guy out.
And DeMarcus is a slow fighter. You know, he wants 4 rounds to warm up and all this other stuff. Like it's not like that. You know.
Yeah. Can you still spin the nunchucks?
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm in top shape, man. Like I said, on my YouTube channel, I'm breaking bricks and stuff over my body. I'm in top shape. I work out. I work out 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I got a
Do
video
people?
where I'm dropping a 100-pound rock on my stomach. It's all real, but I will never do that again. But I'm like, that's it. I'm too old for this shit. That's it. I'm done. But no, I stay in very, very good shape. I do private security sometimes. People are crazy. You know, you got to take care of your body, you know.
Sorry. So, you know, you're talking about your YouTube channel. What kind of community do you think you have? Is it a lot of people that are trying to get information from you, or is it?
No, no, I have a lot of people. I'm mentoring a couple of world-class boxing trainers in private. I do all that stuff in private because everybody wants to create their own brand. And I have a lot of boxing experience. I spent 10 years with Roger Mayweather back in the 80s. When I met Roger when he was young, I'm like, man, this dude's a genius. I've never met nobody more fearless. So I spent a zillion hours around this guy learning everything. I know that whole complete Mayweather system, all of it. I know all the pad work, the footwork, everything of it.
No, I mean the commenters. Do you get like? Is it people asking you
No,
questions?
no,
You think?
no. It's just people that just a young kid saying insults and hate
Oh,
and I'm
really?
fake and I'm a fraud and I'm a loser. You know.
They don't try to get information from you?
Oh no! And I had a couple of people come to work out with me or whatever, and uh, uh, they're believers now. You know, I hit them with some heavy stuff. So, but you know, this is the world we live in. You know, people are frustrated, full of hate. You know, it is what it is, man. You know, I don't take it personal. If someone's going to spend the entire day insulting me and watching my videos, I don't care because I get paid by YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So,
But if
hey,
you have a big following, then obviously there's people who feel that there's value to watching it.
well, I mean, I am at over 25 million views and growing.
Yeah. I mean, clearly there's people who feel it's worth watching.
You know what? You never know what's going to work, and you never know what's going to work. There's no blueprint for nothing, man. Because I've been around so many successful fighters and so many successful people, and I see one group, they do everything wrong, it turns out right, and then I see another group that does everything right, and it turns out wrong.
Yeah.
Your life's journey is truly that, and that's your blueprint. And realistically, man, there is no blueprint for nothing. There really isn't, man.
Kind of luck of the draw, huh?
Uh, I will say this: Sean Strickland won't be champ very long. If Hamzat Chimaev comes up, Sean is going to get destroyed. That's one prediction. Let me see. Bo Nickel is going to be extremely difficult to deal with. He is. A lot of people don't know he can box. His
Yeah.
family comes from boxing, and he has a lot of hours of boxing. Like he really can box. So for MMA, he will have when they fear his wrestling. So when they don't think he can strike, watch. This dude is he's gonna be bodying people. He has millions of hours of boxing. I'm telling you, this dude's he's gonna be tough to deal with, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw him. Penn State came here to had a duel with OSU. He was a freshman. He pinned his opponent real fast, and yeah, like I mean, no one knew who he was at that time because he was just a freshman wrestling for Penn State. But
His
he pinned his.
his muscle memory is for pure combat sports. So you can push sleds and run and hire the conditioning coaches with their little notebooks and weigh in your tuna on a scale. That shit don't mean shit. You got to have muscle memory for fighting. So wrestlers have the best balance. So coming from that type of background, you're going to have balance already. That's why you can teach a wrestler to strike, but a striker, you can't really teach him to wrestle. Because it's just they don't have the same balance.
Yeah, the understanding of their center of gravity and all that.
It's just like Habib, like I said, he'll take down anybody. And you will go into oxygen debt because his muscle memory, he ain't getting tired. You can hang it up. You can be 10-time world, you just whatever. I'll tell you, when he grabs you, I'm telling you, you're going in oxygen debt. Done deal, man.
Yeah, must be pretty amazing to watch that at AKA.
Well, it's just almost like the norm. But here's the weird thing. Like in my lifetime, I've met certain people, and they've all had this glow. So when I met Mayweather Jr. at like 16, he had this weird glow to him. Boo Cow, met him at 18, had this weird glow. Habib had this glow. These people, I'm telling you, they have this weird glow to them. So when in my lifetime I meet them, and I met young Jim Carrey, and I'm like, man, this dude has this weird glow. I'm like, man, I'm like, he's one of them. So that's what I call him when I meet these people. I'm like, oh shit, he's one of them. And I meet these people when they're real young, and I just know it. I'm like, oh man, like this dude, he's one of them, man. They ain't stopping him, man.
Just have a weird vibe to him.
It's not the vibe; they just have a glow to them. It's just different, man. I don't know how to describe it, man, but it's just like you just know. It's like whoa,
Like the last dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they got the glow, man. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. You see it, and it's like, whoa, man. Oh, Salma Hayek had it. I met Salma Hayek before Dusk Till Dawn, and I was just like, whoa. She was smoking hot. I didn't really see no glow, but after that years later, I was just, and then when I seen her in the movie, I was just like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
She's one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you just taking time to do this. Maybe let people know like where they can find some of your stuff.
Oh no!
If they want to check.
Go to YouTube. It's all over. My videos are all over the world. They're trending in like over 50 countries and stuff, man. It's everywhere, man. So, it's good entertainment, and it is real, and just enjoy it. Laugh, smile, call me names, whatever. The best insults get a free pair of Nunchucks. So there it is.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You have to think of one. No, it's called Kung Fu Theater only.
No, it's just under my name, but it's based on Kung Fu Theater.
I think I subscribed to it already.
Yeah. So it's just like I said, I put some videos up. Everybody loves Wing Chun and stuff, and I think at some point in the future, more of that blocking style will be incorporated in combat sports.
Let me ask you about this before I let you go, because Seagal had a kind of a short run in MMA where he was doing some of that with like Anderson Silva and some of the Black House camp.
Yeah.
Let me tell me what you thought of that.
Um, Steven Seagal has been around it. Okay, here's the thing. People don't realize Steven Seagal is almost 70 years old, and he is clinically obese. So for a guy who's that fat, that heavy, and that old to still be that active is really amazing. So that's the first thing. But two, you know, no old guy is going to beat a young guy, especially a professional fighter. I mean, come on, man. Like, you got to be realistic, man. You know, us old guys, we want to beat the young guys. And, you know, I still spar with people, and I can do exceptionally well, but I'm not going to beat no young guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Steven, he's around Samuel Kwok, who is like one of the biggest frauds that ever walked the earth. And most of the Wing Chun people are so physically out of shape that there's no way they can make it functional. If you're not in shape, you're not going to make nothing work. It's that simple. So even any training is better than no training, but realistically, any martial art that's good is basically 10 moves standing and 10 moves on the ground. That's it. Nothing else.
But why do you think he was around for a period of time and now we don't see him?
Well, George Foreman had called him out for a sparring match, and then he disappeared for 2 years on that one because George Foreman would mess him up. Because I had been around George Foreman and Archie Moore. And, yeah, George Foreman hit him, he'll explode. All those Cheetos and fucking fries that come out of his body. Steven, from what I hear, got in trouble with a crypto scam and all kinds of stuff. And basically, he lives in Russia, and they pretty much own him over there. So, yeah, he's his dual citizenship is not by choice.
Yeah.
But you know, and a lot of old fighters will hang around young fighters to keep themselves relevant.
Right.
So it's just trying to copy and paste some shit. Like, Anderson Silva, come on. He didn't teach Anderson Silva shit. Get out of here.
Right. So you think he was paying the Black House guys to kind of let him?
No, he was just amusing to them. You know, it's just a novelty thing, almost like kind of like Michael Jai White saying, "Oh, I spar with MMA fighters." You know what I'm saying? It's just some clickbait type shit. You know, no. See, actors want to be athletes, and athletes want to be actors. So that's that paradox of them wanting to have what each other has. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No
Well,
actor is going to be an MMA fighter. I can tell you that right now. There's no way. But an MMA fighter actually could be an actor.
yeah, some of them have done some smaller movies
Yeah.
so far. No real big ones yet, but
Well,
some
they're
smaller
not,
ones.
because here's the thing. MMA is not going to look good on film because I do stuntman work. And
Mm-hmm.
I've choreographed, and I trained some movie people. And the best people that look on screen are either wushu, taekwondo, or dancing. So if you want to be in films, that's what you need to study. You don't need to study real fighting because real fighting is going to look ugly on camera. It's not going to look right. That's why, like Rhonda, they put her in a movie, and Michelle Rodriguez looked better than her because Michelle Rodriguez comes from a dance background, and she has flexibility, and she understands the rhythm of dance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why do you think Bruce Lee was so good on camera? Because he was a cha-cha dancer. He was a cha-cha champion, so he understood the rhythm of dance. So when he's kicking 8 guys at a time, that footwork is very cha-cha remnants because he understands the rhythm of cha-cha.
Hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah. All your great fighters come from dance backgrounds. Sugar Ray Robinson was a dancer. I can go on and on. Floyd Mayweather can dance and roller skate. And a lot of people don't know Floyd Mayweather Jr., he actually knows how to wrestle. That's a big secret it is. He is a super duper athlete on every level.
Yeah, Crawford too is a good wrestler.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, man. I could talk to you all day about this kind of stuff.
Oh no! I'm very very philosophical, but like I said, I'm an unofficial Bruce Lee historian too. So
Yeah,
his last
all the time.
his very last student is a personal friend of mine, and he was a pallbearer at both of his funerals. So I've been talking to this guy every day for like 5 years. So he explains to me how he thought and how the real guy was, because all the stuff out is just so fake and everybody rewrites history and all this other stuff. So he explains to me, like, look, I was with him up until the last 5 days of his life. This is how this guy was. So it's really interesting stuff, man.
Yeah, I should bring you back. We should write down a few movies, like kung fu movies,
Oh
not
yeah.
just movies, but maybe kung fu theater movies,
Oh,
and have you
dude,
kind of go over 'em.
I know the background of all those movies, dude. What went on behind the scenes and everything, man. I got a chance to talk to people that knew Raymond Chow, that worked at Golden Harvest and everything, man. I'm a big time historian on all of that stuff, man. Like I said, I knew Jim Kelly. I knew Jim Kelly for 9 years,
Wow.
and I made friends with the most of the whole cast of Enter the Dragon. So I got in-depth story. But like I said, I got my Kung Fu Theater blog is on Tumblr, and I have tons of unpublished information on there that pissed off a lot of old school people. But hey, it's the truth. So there it is.
Is it video or written?
No, it's just a written.
Okay. I've never been on Tumblr before, so I don't.
Yeah, it's just it's a good place to put blogs and stuff like that. And there's some video clips there, and I explain stuff that went on the background with Run Shaw and everything else, man. It was a different planet back then, man.
God, I love that stuff.
But Bruce Lee got his, in closing, Bruce Lee got his yells because Golden Harvest, Golden Harvest Studios, there were so many stray cats on the lot that like there was hundreds of cats everywhere. And they just screaming and fighting all day. Yeah! And he was just listening to that shit. That's where he got the yells from.
So what made him think it'd be a good idea for him to do it?
Well, everybody wants cat-like reflexes. And, he kind of moved like a cat. Light on his feet, da-da-da-da-da. And every great person has a scream. From James Brown, Prince, Michael Jackson, Bruce Lee, all of these people historically have they got their patented scream, man.
That's interesting. Yeah, we got to do some kung fu sometime, man. Some kung fu movies.
All right, man. Have a safe day out there. You know how crazy the world is, man.
Yeah, for sure. You too.
I'll see you.
Take care.